Have you ever watched someone achieve extraordinary success and thought to yourself, they're just naturally gifted? That thought is holding you back from achieving everything you've ever dreamed of. The most successful person you know. Now, I want you to erase everything you think you know about why they're successful, because today we're going to shatter some illusions that have been holding you back, and I'm going to show you why discipline, yes, plain, unglamorous, day in, day out discipline, beats raw talent every single time. 20 years ago, I sat where you're sitting now. I was convinced that successful people were simply born different. They had something special, something I didn't have. But then I discovered a truth that changed everything, a truth that I'm going to share with you today, and it's going to change your life forever. Success leaves clues, and the biggest clue isn't talent, it's discipline. The kind of discipline that gets you up at 5 a.m. when your bed is warm and comfortable. The kind of discipline that keeps you working when others are watching Netflix. The kind of discipline that turns average people into extraordinary achievers. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael was considered the least talented person in his architectural firm. His drawings weren't the most creative, his presentations weren't the most polished, and his ideas weren't the most innovative. But Michael had something that his more talented colleagues didn't have. He had unshakable discipline. Every morning, without fail, Michael arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m. He spent the first hour studying architectural innovations. Every evening, he spent 30 minutes planning the next day. Every weekend, he visited one new building and analyzed its design. His colleagues called him boring. They laughed at his routines. But 5 years later, something remarkable happened. While his naturally talented colleagues were still in the same positions, Michael had started his own firm and was winning contracts that his former employers couldn't even dream of approaching. Was it talent that got him there? No. It was discipline, pure, simple, and powerful discipline. Talent is like a natural spring. It bubbles up from the ground effortlessly. But discipline is like an aqueduct. It's man-made, it's deliberate, and most importantly, it's reliable. When the spring runs dry, and it always does, the aqueduct keeps flowing. Talent has an expiration date, but discipline only grows stronger with time. The more you practice discipline, the more powerful it becomes. It's like a muscle that gets stronger with every rep, every set, every workout. How many talented people do you know who never reached their potential? Now, think about how many disciplined people you know who failed to improve their lives. The difference is striking, isn't it? Discipline, not about punishment. It's not about deprivation. Discipline is about freedom. Yes, you heard that right, freedom. When you develop discipline, you free yourself from the tyranny of mood, from the prison of procrastination, from the chains of I don't feel like it. Let me tell you another story that will drive this point home. I know a woman named Daisy who struggled with weight loss for years. She had tried every diet, every exercise program, every miracle solution on the market. Nothing worked. Why? Because she was relying on motivation, that fickle, unreliable friend that disappears exactly when you need it most. Then Daisy made a decision that changed everything. Instead of waiting to feel motivated, she built a system of discipline. She didn't wake up early to exercise because she felt like it. She did it because that's what disciplined people do. She didn't eat healthy because she was excited about salads. She did it because that's what disciplined people do. The result? In 18 months, she lost 87 pounds. But here's the real transformation. She developed a level of self-trust that changed every aspect of her life. Her career improved, her relationships deepened, her confidence soared, not because she lost weight, but because she proved to herself that discipline beats motivation every single time. Something that's been programmed into your mind since childhood, this mystical idea of talent. We've all heard it. She's naturally gifted. He was born with it. Some people just have that special something. These words sound innocent enough, but they're more dangerous than a poison because they rob you of your power to change. Every single study of high achievers has shown that their success wasn't primarily due to their innate abilities. Think about that for a moment. The very thing we've been taught to believe in, natural talent, turns out to be one of the smallest factors in long-term success. What's even more fascinating is how we've created this talent myth. We see someone perform at a high level and we assume they were born that way. We witness a virtuoso pianist and think, what a gift. But what we don't see are the thousands of hours they spent alone in a room practicing the same pieces over and over again while their friends were out having fun. I've interviewed hundreds of top performers across every field imaginable: business, sports, arts, science. And do you know what I discovered? None of them believed in talent. Not a single one. What they believed in was the power of consistent, deliberate practice. They believed in showing up every day, especially on the days they didn't feel like it. Here's what really happens when someone appears to be naturally talented. They've usually started earlier, practiced longer, or worked harder than others in ways that weren't visible to the outside world. What looks like talent is actually the result of thousands of small decisions to practice when others quit. Let me tell you about James, a software developer I met a few years ago. James was what most people would call average. He graduated from mid-tier college with mediocre grades. His first job was at a small company where he did basic coding work, nothing special, nothing extraordinary. But James did something different. While his coworkers complained about having to learn new programming languages, James spent 2 hours every morning before work learning the most challenging programming frameworks he could find. While others watched TV after dinner, James built small projects to test his skills. While his colleagues took weekends off, James participated in coding challenges and hackathons. His co-workers called him obsessed. They said he was trying too hard. They told him to take it easy and stop being so intense. But James kept going. He knew something they didn't, that discipline would eventually overtake talent. 3 years later, James was hired by one of the world's leading tech companies at a salary his former colleagues couldn't believe. 5 years later, he had patents under his name. 7 years later, he was leading a team of those naturally talented programmers who had once dismissed his efforts. Was James more talented than his peers? No. In fact, many of them could solve coding problems faster than him in the beginning. But here's what matters. While they relied on their natural abilities, James relied on discipline. While they waited for inspiration, James worked. While they looked for shortcuts, James embraced the long road of consistent practice. This is what I mean when I say talent is overrated. Talent is like having a head start in a marathon. It's nice, but it means nothing if you don't keep running. I've seen talented people fail time and time again because they believed their talent was enough. I've watched gifted individuals get overtaken by seemingly average people who simply refuse to quit. The truth is, talent without discipline is like an engine without fuel. It might look impressive, but it won't take you anywhere. But discipline without talent, that's like a steady march forward. It might not be flashy, it might not be exciting, but it will take you further than you ever imagined possible. The most dangerous thing about believing in talent is that it gives you an excuse to quit. If you succeed, you attribute it to your natural abilities. If you fail, you blame your lack of talent. Either way, you give away your power to change, to grow, to become something more than you are today. Let me tell you what discipline really is, because most people have it all wrong. They think discipline is punishment. They think it's deprivation. They think it's giving up everything you love to do everything you hate. But that's not discipline at all. True discipline is nothing more than remembered decisions. It's deciding once at a deep level who you want to become, and then letting that decision guide every other decision you make. It's the art of becoming your own best friend, your own strongest ally, your own most reliable partner in success. Every time you make a decision, you're not just deciding what to do right now. You're deciding who you're becoming. When you choose to wake up early, you're not just deciding to lose an hour of sleep. You're deciding to become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel. This is where the real power lies. Every single day, you have approximately 1,440 minutes. That's 1,440 opportunities to either strengthen or weaken your discipline. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, you're building what I call your discipline muscle. And just like a physical muscle, it gets stronger with every rep. Your daily habits are not just actions, they're votes for the person you're becoming. When you choose to read instead of scrolling through social media, you're voting for becoming more knowledgeable. When you choose to exercise instead of sleeping in, you're voting for becoming healthier. When you choose to save instead of spending impulsively, you're voting for becoming wealthier. These votes don't just add up, they compound. This is what I call the compound effect of discipline, and it's one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Imagine you have two people. Person who makes slightly better decisions 1% of the time than person B. After one day, you can barely see the difference. After 1 week, it's still negligible. But after 1 year, the gap becomes visible. After 5 years, it becomes massive. After 10 years, it becomes nearly insurmountable. This is why discipline beats talent every single time. Talent might give you a head start, but discipline determines how far you'll go. Talent might make the first few steps easier, but discipline determines whether you'll complete the journey. Let me give you a concrete example of how this works in the real world. Think about your morning routine. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phone. They start their day by responding to other people's priorities. But what if you decided to own your morning? What if you decided to make those first hours of the day sacred? What happens when you do? You start building what I call discipline momentum when you win the first battle of the day. Getting out of bed when you said you would, you set yourself up to win the next battle, and the next, and the next. This isn't just positive thinking. This is neuroscience in action. When you follow through on your commitments to yourself, your brain releases chemicals that make you feel capable and strong. These chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and others, create what scientists call an upward spiral. Each small win makes the next win more likely. But here's the real secret about discipline that nobody talks about. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. It's not about never failing, it's about getting back up one more time than you fall down. True discipline isn't about never making mistakes. It's about how quickly you correct course when you do. If you improve just 1% every day through disciplined action, after 1 year you'll be 37 times better than when you started. Not 365% better, 3,700% better, because of the power of compounding. This is why small, consistent actions driven by discipline are so much more powerful than occasional bursts of effort driven by talent or motivation. Your brain is literally rewiring itself every time you follow through on a disciplined decision. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, but I call it the miracle of human potential. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're not just changing your actions. You're changing your brain's neural pathways. You're literally becoming a different person at a biological level. This is where the real magic happens. When you understand that discipline isn't just about what you do, but about who you become, everything changes. You stop looking for shortcuts because you realize that the process itself is the reward. You stop waiting for motivation because you understand that action precedes motivation, not the other way around. Something that everyone in this room has experienced but few people understand. The internal battle, that voice in your head that tries to talk you out of your commitments, that feeling in your gut that makes you want to quit, that resistance that shows up exactly when you're about to make a breakthrough. What nobody tells you about discipline is that it's not just about managing your time or following a schedule. It's about managing yourself. It's about winning the war that happens between your ears every single day. The most important battles you'll ever fight aren't out there in the world. They're inside your own mind. Every morning when your alarm goes off, there's a battle. Every time you're faced with a difficult task, there's a battle. Every time you have to choose between what's easy and what's right, there's a battle. And here's the truth that changed my life. The voice that tells you to quit, to take it easy, to do it tomorrow. That voice never goes away, but you can learn to win against it. What most people don't realize is that resistance, that force that tries to stop you from doing what you know you should do, is actually a compass. It points directly to what's most important for your growth. The harder something is to do, the more resistance you feel, the more certain you can be that it's exactly what you need to do. Have you ever noticed how the resistance gets stronger exactly when you're about to make a breakthrough? It's like a final exam that life gives you before allowing you to level up. Most people fail this test because they don't understand what's happening. They think the resistance means they're on the wrong path, when actually it's proof they're on exactly the right path. Let me tell you about Rachel, a writer I worked with who transformed her life by understanding this principle. Rachel had always dreamed of writing a novel, but for 15 years she never got past the first chapter. She had the talent. Her writing professors had always told her she had a gift, but talent wasn't enough. Every time Rachel sat down to write, she faced what she called her inner committee. Voices telling her she wasn't good enough, that she was wasting her time, that she should do something more practical. These voices were loudest right when she was about to make real progress. And for 15 years, these voices won. Then Rachel learned something that changed everything. She learned that resistance isn't a wall, it's a compass. She started seeing her internal resistance as a signal that she was pushing against her comfort zone, that she was growing, that she was actually doing something meaningful. Instead of trying to silence the voices, she acknowledged them. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is scary. Yes, I might fail. And I'm going to do it anyway. She made a decision that discipline would win over her inner resistance every single time. Rachel developed what I call a resistance ritual every morning at 5 a.m. When the voices were screaming at her to go back to sleep, she would say out loud, "I hear you, and I'm doing it anyway." When the voices told her her writing was terrible, she would say, maybe it is, and I'm writing anyway. When the voices told her she was wasting her time, she would say, perhaps I am, and I'm continuing anyway. Do you know what happened? The first month was hell. The second month was hard. The third month was challenging. But by the fourth month, something magical happened. The voices started getting weaker. Not because she had silenced them, but because she had proven to herself day after day that she was stronger than they were. 18 months later, Rachel finished her novel. It wasn't just published, it became a bestseller. But the real victory wasn't the book's success. The real victory was who Rachel had become by winning the battle within, day after day, page after page. Something that modern science has proven beyond any doubt. Your brain is not fixed, it's not hardwired, it's not unchangeable. Your brain is more like a muscle that grows stronger with use. This isn't just motivation talk. This is hard science that proves why discipline will always beat raw talent. When neuroscientists studied the brains of highly disciplined individuals, they discovered something remarkable. Every time you perform a disciplined action, your brain creates new neural pathways. These pathways are like highways for electrical signals in your brain. The more you use these pathways, the stronger they become. This is why discipline becomes easier over time. You're literally carving success highways in your brain. When you first learned to drive a car, it required intense concentration. You had to consciously think about every single action, checking mirrors, pressing pedals, turning the wheel. But now, you do it automatically. That's because your brain has built strong neural pathways for driving. The same thing happens with discipline. Research from Harvard University showed that it takes approximately 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. Not 21 days like we've all been told, but 66 days. This is crucial information because it tells us exactly how long we need to maintain our discipline before it becomes part of who we are. Scientists discovered that when you establish a disciplined routine, your brain actually starts conserving energy. It's like your brain creates an autopilot system for success. This is why highly disciplined people don't seem to struggle as much. Their brains have literally rewired themselves to make disciplined actions the default mode. When you first start waking up early, your brain fights against it. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision making, has to wage war against your limbic system, which wants you to stay in bed. But after those 66 days of consistent discipline, your brain actually starts releasing wake-up chemicals before your alarm goes off. This is what happened to David, a business owner I worked with. David always considered himself a night person. He believed it was just how he was wired. But when he learned about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, he decided to test it. He committed to waking up at 5 a.m. every day for 70 days, no exceptions. The first 2 weeks were torture. His brain fought him every step of the way. But he understood something crucial. The resistance he felt wasn't a sign that he was doing something wrong. It was a sign that his brain was building new neural pathways. Each morning he got up, he wasn't just winning a battle against his alarm clock. He was literally rewiring his brain. By day 45, something incredible happened. David started waking up naturally at 4:55 a.m. before his alarm. His brain had completely rewired itself. But here's the real breakthrough. This new wiring affected every area of his life. His decision-making improved. His willpower increased. His ability to focus intensified. This is because discipline in one area creates what scientists call a positive spillover effect. When you strengthen your discipline muscle in one area, it becomes stronger in all areas. It's like doing bicep curls and discovering that your entire body gets stronger. The science is clear. Every time you choose discipline over immediate gratification, you're not just making a decision. You're making an investment in your brain's architecture. You're building what scientists call cognitive reserve, extra neural pathways that make future challenges easier to handle. Now comes the moment of truth. Everything I've shared with you today means nothing without action. Knowledge without implementation is just entertainment. So let me show you exactly how to transform everything we've discussed into daily habits that will reshape your life. First, understand that discipline isn't about changing everything at once. That's a recipe for failure. True discipline is built through what I call the power hour system. Here's how it works. You take the first hour of your day and divide it into 3 20-minute segments. This becomes your foundation for daily discipline. The first 20 minutes are for your body. This isn't about running marathons, it's about movement. It could be stretching, walking, or basic exercises. The key is consistency, not intensity. Remember what we learned about neural pathways. We're building highways for success in your brain, and it starts with taking care of your physical vessel. The second 20 minutes are for your mind. This is where you feed your brain with knowledge that moves you toward your goals. Read a book in your field. Study something that challenges you. The average person in America reads less than 1 book per year. Just by reading 20 minutes every day, you'll complete over 20 books annually. Think about the competitive advantage that gives you. The final 20 minutes are for planning and visualization. This is where you program your day for success. You review your goals, plan your major tasks, and visualize yourself executing them perfectly. Top performers in every field use this technique because it works. When you visualize success with emotion and detail, your brain starts creating neural pathways for that success before you even begin. You need what I call a decision-free zone. Most people fail at discipline because they try to make decisions when their willpower is lowest. Instead, make all your decisions the night before. Lay out your clothes, prepare your workspace, set up your environment for success. When you wake up, you don't decide whether to follow your routine. You just execute what you've already decided. Corner 1 is your environment. Your physical space either supports or sabotages your discipline. Clean your workspace, organize your tools, remove distractions. Your environment should make discipline the easy choice. Corner 2 is your morning ritual. We've talked about the power hour, but it needs to be non-negotiable. Treat it like you would treat a meeting with the most important person in your field, because that's exactly what it is. A meeting with your future self. Corner 3 is your energy management. Discipline requires energy. Monitor what gives you energy and what drains it. Track your sleep patterns. Watch your nutrition. Remember, discipline isn't about pushing through exhaustion. It's about managing your energy so you can perform at your peak. Corner 4 is your accountability system. Create what I call a discipline dashboard. Track your key behaviors daily. Use a simple scoring system. Did you complete your power hour? Did you stick to your predetermined schedule? Did you honor your commitments to yourself? Score yourself every day. What gets measured gets managed. Tonight, before you go to bed, you will do 3 things. First, write down your power hour plan for tomorrow. Be specific about what you'll do in each 20-minute segment. Second, prepare your environment. Lay out everything you need. Third, set a single goal for tomorrow that will move you toward your larger vision. The key to making this work is what I call the no exception policy. The moment you make an exception, you're teaching your brain that your commitments to yourself are negotiable. They're not. Your word to yourself must become unbreakable. Picture yourself 1 year from today. But don't just see yourself. Feel yourself. Feel the strength that comes from winning the battle with yourself every single day for 365 days. Feel the confidence that comes from keeping every promise you've made to yourself. Feel the power that comes from knowing that you've become someone who chooses discipline over convenience, growth over comfort, excellence over ease. That future version of you isn't just a dream, it's a decision. Everything that will happen between now and then comes down to this moment, this decision, this commitment to let discipline guide your life. The talent you were born with is just a starting point, but the discipline you choose today, that's your destiny. Remember what we learned today. Talent is given, but discipline is chosen. Talent is common, but discipline is rare. Talent reaches its limits, but discipline breaks through every ceiling. Every single person who has ever achieved greatness has understood this fundamental truth, that what you do consistently matters infinitely more than what you do occasionally. You're not leaving here today with just information. You're leaving with a decision. A decision that from this moment forward, you will be the most disciplined person you know. Not the most talented, not the most gifted, not the most naturally blessed, but the most disciplined. Because here's what I know about you. The fact that you're here, the fact that you've stayed to the end, tells me everything I need to know about your potential. You have something inside you that's stronger than talent, more powerful than circumstance, more enduring than luck. You have the capacity for discipline. Starting tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, you have a choice. You can choose the easy path of talent, hoping your natural abilities will carry you through. Or you can choose the warrior's path of discipline, knowing that every single day you're building something extraordinary.